Hello, everyone. Today, I've put out ultrasound money on the Bankless Newsletter. This is a derivative off of the podcast that we did with Justin Drake, where he came and gave his pitch for why Ether is ultrasound money. And I tackle kind of the same concept in a different way when I go back into history and talk about the way that economic engines throughout history are constructed, and then use that to compare and contrast crypto economic engines, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then I go into comparing specifically Ethereum to Bitcoin and talk about the efficiencies and the merits of the specific two crypto economic engines that we know of today, which of course leads into the value proposition of Ether as ultrasound money. So let's get into it. Ultrasound money. Crypto economics represents a paradigm shift in how humans are able to engage as economic agents. Good crypto economic engines are minimally extractive hosts of economic activity and offer strong incentives to adopt these more efficient economic platforms. Like with all human inventions, crypto economics was birthed with an experimental MVP, and due to the reflexivity of nature and human shelling points, Bitcoin has quickly risen to become the world's sixth most valuable asset by market capitalization. Crypto economic researchers, however, are not satisfied with the first MVP that crypto economics has to offer and ask themselves, what happens when we deconstruct, optimize, and refine the components that makes crypto economics function? Good crypto economic systems optimize both cryptography and economics. The optimization of one without the other leaves an inefficient imbalance in the system and can lead to long-term wear on the system. This is the fundamental critique that crypto economic researchers have of the Bitcoin system, an optimized economic asset, but powered by an inefficient economic engine. With the domain of crypto economics unlocked, we must ask ourselves, with 12 years of compounding crypto economic research, how far can we take this? Table of contents and TLDR. Part 1. Economic engines and physical versus digital economies. Crypto economics is a new iteration of economics. While it offers a new design space for how economic systems are constructed, economies as a discipline offers a fundamental design patterns that must be respected and understood. Good crypto economic engines will match the patterns of economic engines found throughout history. The economic unit. A single monetary unit is leveraged by the components of an economic system that acts as a coordination vehicle for the communication of value across the components that make up an economy. Economic units can be charged or discharged by basic principles of supply and demand. Good monies have ample demand with constrained supply. The issuance of further economic units are a drain on the power behind the money, and unconstrained issuance can deplete the monetary unit of a power and break the coordination capabilities of the components of an economy. Crypto economic efficiencies. Crypto economic engines have intrinsically unique characteristics that their physical world counterparts cannot offer. All economic systems require protection, lest they be captured or corrupted. Physical economies require physical protection. Since all physical economies operate in the same physical plane, nation-states undergo a defense expenditure arms race, which ultimately is a drag on the economies that produce the financing to fund these arms races. Because crypto economic engines exist in cyberspace, they are highly resistant to physical attack, and thus do not need to engage in the same arms race. These cost savings from the lack of defense expenditure are returned back into the economic engines and allow for more efficient economic activity. Part 2. Optimizing crypto economics. Crypto economic engines offer a platform for unconstrained economic activity, protect the economic activity that is native to the crypto economic system, and siphon off the minimum of economic energy needed to protect the system, and they produce a monetary asset that captures the economic excesses of the system. Good crypto economic engines do these things better. Crypto economists ask themselves, how do we optimize crypto economic engines to maximize the benefits they bring? Part 3, ultrasound money. With 12 years of crypto economic research and development, what do we have to show for? We have a consensus engine that achieves maximal security for minimal cost upon the system, which is proof of stake. We have an economic energy recycling mechanism that ensures the system exhibits minimum energy loss. And we have an economic platform unconstrained and highly iterative and minimally extractive in internet-scaled capitalism. The advances in these realms are synergistic. The benefits of one feeds into the others. The net product is a highly efficient economy layer on the internet, powered by the world's most economically charged money. Ultimately, money is a human coordination game. Humans come to choose the money that best retains its value while providing ample utility to its holders. Ethereum is a minimally extractive economic platform with a native currency ETH that's designed to outpace its own GDP growth. ETH offers a compelling new selling point as a storehold of wealth. As this information permeates through the global human consciousness, ETH becomes ultrasound money. Economic engines. Economies are frequently illustrated as engines. Economies are integrated systems which consume resources and produce economic output. Economic engines are evaluated on their power output measured in gross domestic product. In order to maintain operation, economies must be protected by some kind of powerful force. Economies produce value and they are therefore desirable. If they are desirable, they must be guarded. If economies are not meaningfully protected, the incentive to try and capture an economic system may outweigh the cost of trying, and therefore the economy is exposed and an attack can be expected. An integrated relationship is established between the three parties that make up an economy: the coordinating body, the leadership or government or a party in power, the economic power, the productive output of the economy, and the protective force, the army, militia, or defense force of a nation. When these three parts of an economic system are composed together, they create a nation state, a composed integrated body of productive internal organs, the economy, a central nervous system for coordination and long-term planning, the government, and teeth, claws, and weapons for protection, the protective force. I've illustrated this relationship here in this graphic. Money is created to allow for the circulation of resources around the economy and also enables the coordinating body to siphon off adequate economic energy to fund its security. Governments, with their control over money, direct the resources of a system as optimally as possible: defense, infrastructure, research, education, etc. This progress of funding allows for sustainable long-term energy production by the economy. This is a good long-term plan because maintaining control over an economic body is a long-term game. Governments also direct resources into defense. Defense is critically important because without it, the economic body can be captured by the first adversary that tries. The protection of the economic engine is of the utmost priority because the loss of control of the economic engine means that the coordinating party is, quote, out of power. Historically, transitions of power are not smooth events. Much economic loss occurs. Strong defense allows for the coordinating body to maintain control over the economic body in the face of external threats of takeover. Defense expenditure is designed to not return economic energy back into the economic system. Defense spending expends economic energy. Funding a defensive force does not increase the strength of the economy. It is strictly a consumptive endeavor. The benefits of defense funding comes from the long-term strategy for maintaining long-term control over the economic engine, the economic unit. Money is the value transfer tool that is created by the power of the government, which makes it the only lawful legal tender of the land and charges taxes in it. The economic engine then adopts the currency and in doing so bestows the power of seigniorage upon the government. By leveraging the physical power of the military, the government can use this physical power to force the economy to use its declared money and also physically restrain people who attempt to generate counterfeit money. This makes money, quote, hard for people. It can't be freely minted or produced, but easy for the government because they have the power to print new money and no one can restrain this right because they have a monopoly on violence. With the power of seigniorage unlocked, governments don't have to collect one-for-one taxes with expenditures. They can collect taxes at any given rate, and they can issue new coinage at any given rate. Having these two variables decoupled from each other gives more flexibility and choice in how the government chooses to leverage the currency. The freedom to issue new money is advantageous to ensuring long-term funding of security. Economic GDP isn't always stable. It fluctuates up and down and spikes or troughs randomly at times. The protective force that defends an economy would be more effective if long-term funding was guaranteed and able to be planned around. The dependably regular issuance of new coin is a good way to fund the establishment and maintenance of a protective army. The regularity in issuance allows for long-term planning and budgeting for the strongest possible force. Discharging monetary power. When a new coin is issued, new power isn't created, it's borrowed. Because currency is fungible, the value of newly minted coin is equal to the worth of already existing coin. The act of minting new money does not increase the total value of all outstanding money. Rather, the existing supply of money becomes diluted and power is drawn out of the circulating supply of money and funneled into the newly minted coin. Minting money does not create value, it displaces it from the circulating supply into the newly minted supply. Then this new coin is allocated to fund defense, and thus the economic engine is secured from would-be attackers. Drawing power out of the monetary unit can lead to catastrophic outcomes if done in an unsustainable or inappropriate fashion. The value stored in the money is not infinite. Over time, persistent borrowing of energy becomes unsustainable, especially as the energy continually gets expended in outputs that do not efficiently recycle value back into the economic engine, for example, the cost of the US military. If the energy of the economic system is expended at a faster rate than it is produced, then the economic value of money slowly drains over time. If people using the money collectively discover that the value is being drained from their currency, then they will flee into alternative methods of storing value over time. This can markedly accelerate the draining of value behind the economic unit and lead to hyperinflation. Hyperinflation occurs when the expenditures of the coordinating body are so large that it enters a state of perpetual currency issuance to fund these expenditures. This perpetual issuance generally still works so long as the people using the money aren't bothered by the devaluation. But once they wake up to the rampant discharging of the monetary battery, they tend to flee away from the unit. Charging monetary power. The money of an economy becomes charged by adding value to it. Someone might labor for 8 hours and receive 100 economic units as compensation. Then they might build a mechanism, such as a business, that achieves the same economic output yet only costs 50 economic units to produce the same economic output. If the entire economy becomes twice as efficient and the supply of monetary units stays the same, then the money unit has twice as much economic power behind it. Growth in economic output charges the monetary unit with economic power. If the GDP of an economy doubles and the supply of money units stays the same, the money becomes backed by twice as much economic power. The economic unit is capable of discharging double the power and thus has become charged with energy. As economies grow in efficiency, they are capable of achieving similar levels of economic output for less costs. The premise of sound enterprise is that a business can produce a product at less cost than any other viable alternative. If this is true, then the business is capable of receiving money, producing products, while still having some money left over. Having money left over after costs and expenditures means that good businesses are net buyers of money. Economic growth means that there are more businesses competing over the same supply of money so long as the supply of money has stayed the same. Money is backed by the power it bestows upon the owner. This power increases when money has more power behind it, which is a function of the size of the economy that backs the money. The magnitude of the economy behind the money is the system that produces persistent buying pressure on the money. Ultimately, the mechanism that charges or discharges the money is an act of buying or selling the unit. As good businesses are built, they bestow the power of being able to produce 1 unit of currency for less than 1 unit of costs. Economic engines run better on sound money. Economic engines don't need money, they need power. Money is only the vehicle. It must be backed by power. You can't just inject money into a system if that money has no power stored within it. Take, for example, the economic engine of Venezuela, when the coordinating body, the government, attempted to make the economic engine run on money that had no power stored in it. Instead of receiving sound money, the Venezuelan economy became flooded with low-grade Venezuelan bolivars. The engine seized. Gresham's law is an observation in economics that bad money drives out good. If humans notice that their money is leaking in value, they will try to find a different place to store their value. They will discharge that power in their money into alternative reservoirs in order to get rid of the liability of the draining monetary units. The monetary units are sold. The mass discharging of economic units becomes critically dangerous when the coordinating governments have large economic liabilities they must fund. As the power drains from the monetary battery, the coordinating body must issue new money at a higher and higher rate in order to adequately fund the economic security and investments of the nation state. They must issue more money, as the declining value of the money means that the money doesn't go as far. With every instance of new issuance, the power is drained away from the circulating supply of money in the economy and into the new supply. When humans collectively decide to not use the economic unit of a system, the resource coordination between the economy, the coordinating body, and the protective force falls apart. Money needs to have value in order for this system to function. Buying money charges it with power. Selling money discharges its power. Long-term net buying bestows a long-term value accrual in the money. Efficient economic security. Humans have discovered a new type of economic engine powered by a new kind of fuel, cryptoeconomics. 1 part fuel, 1 part engine. This new economic engine's promise to host internet-scaled economic activity while simultaneously consuming fewer resources to host this activity. Thanks to the powers of cryptography and decentralized computing networks, securing the economic output of cryptoeconomic systems is highly efficient compared to previous economic engine models that humans have developed. The fundamental innovation that cryptoeconomic engines bring is their ability to host economic activity with significantly reduced consumptive cost requirements placed upon its native economy, allowing the native economy to retain more of the economic power that it generates. The retention of economic power output is stored in the money of these cryptoeconomic systems. Resistance to physical power. Much of the efficiency leveraged by cryptoeconomic engines is achieved by simply not existing in the physical domain. Cryptoeconomic economies are hosted on the internet and thus do not respond to physical force in the same way that nation-state economies do. Cryptoeconomic systems are therefore highly resistant to physical attack, some more than others. The purely digital nature of cryptoeconomic systems invalidates the might of the physical powers of the world. Not having to be concerned about the strength of the U.S. military is extremely advantageous for economic activity being facilitated by these new cryptoeconomic engines. In contrast to nation-state economies, cryptoeconomic systems are inside their own plane of existence. Bitcoin's proof of work exists in the SHA-256 world and only responds to other SHA-256 competitors, Bitcoin Cash being the only other force of power in this plane and not a very strong one. Similarly, Ethereum's proof of work only exists in the ETH hash, the Ethereum consensus algorithm plane, but will soon be migrating to proof of stake, in which the power is defined by the value of ETH. In proof of stake, the only force that Ethereum responds to is the native asset ETH. All other sources of power are not capable of attacking Ethereum. Under proof of work, Bitcoin's defense force is powered by $5 billion of yearly electricity consumption and ASIC unit production. Similarly, Ethereum's proof of stake is producing $6.6 billion worth of an energy shield of economic security to its preliminary beacon chain, the future host of all Ethereum economic activity, while only costing $500 million in yearly maintenance costs. Economic efficiency is one of the main perks of proof of stake. Meanwhile, the United States spent $720 billion in 2009 to fund its military and protect its economic empire. Resistance to human folly. Cryptoeconomic networks like Bitcoin and Ethereum are non-discretionary about their spending. The nation-state governments attempt to optimize expenditures across a wide variety of strategies: infrastructure, defense, education, research, etc. These strategies are attempts to accelerate growth and produce a more productive economy. However, there are no guarantees that these endeavors pay off in the long term. Attempts to accelerate growth are investments, and not all investments are wise. If the coordinating bodies of an economic system ultimately ends up funding efforts that do not produce net new economic energy, then these efforts are ultimately come out of the value of the monetary unit. Too much malinvestment results in the draining of power from the money, especially if the coordinating body has committed to reoccurring expenditures. Nation-state coordinating bodies are forced into investing into their own future due to the arms race that they find themselves in. All nation-states live in the same plane of existence, the physical world, and there is little meaningful difference between defensive and offensive security forces. Because of this reality, nation-states must invest in their own future. If they don't, an alternative power nation state does and succeeds, then they will not be able to match this opponent in economic power and therefore becomes susceptible to attack. With investment in the future comes risk. No one knows the future, not even nation states. No investment in the future is guaranteed to pay off. Because of the nation-state arms race competition for growth, the long-term prosperity of these economic systems becomes a function of human leadership and effective coordination. Long-term health of nation-state economies is tied to the ability and power of collective human brains. Sometimes humans mess things up. Crypto-economic systems, on the other hand, are solely focused on powering defense and nothing else. Baked into the values of crypto-economic systems is the goal of establishing strong economic foundations and letting the economy grow under its own power. Crypto-economic systems protect the economic engines, but they do not tinker or manipulate them. Crypto-economic systems are not led by a collection of human brains. They are powered by numbers and algorithms. Crypto-economic systems do not make subjective investments or bets on the future. They do one thing and one thing only: provide economic security. This constraint on the scope of crypto-economic systems is theorized to produce better social scalability. No longer do economic actors on these platforms need to place trust in the competence of human leadership. Instead, they have assurances about the long-term operations of these systems, as these systems have automated away the need for human coordination and replaced centralized leadership with code and math. A revolution in economics. Crypto-economic systems are orders of magnitude more economically efficient compared to nation-states. The net result of reduced security costs and eliminated debt financing is significantly reduced power draw from the economic engine to fund security. Because these cost reductions in system maintenance, more monetary power is redirected back into the value of these crypto-economic monetary units. Crypto-economic systems do not issue new coin as a function of the size of the economies they control. Instead, when these crypto economies grow larger, the cryptocurrency assets that power these systems grow in value instead of supply. This is advantageous for economic actors that transact on these systems. Less of human productive output needs to be taxed in order to fund public economic security. If these economic systems cost less to maintain, those that produce the economic output on which the engines runs are better equipped to retain the full value of their economic labor. Crypto economics are extortion-minimized economic systems, which is a compelling feature for the economic actors of the world. The crypto economic design space. We are in the era of crypto economics. Crypto bulls believe that improvements offered by crypto economic engines offer a natural basin that will slowly attract the economic activity of planet Earth. Economic activity is simply more efficient when using crypto economic engines, and people desire efficiency in their economic engagements. Yet, not all crypto economic engines offer comparable levels of efficiency. Proof of work is inefficient. Bitcoin built the first viable crypto economic engine and has proven viability as a construction. A critique of the Bitcoin system is that it is using Stone Age economics. Bitcoin is an attempt to produce an economic system in which the money is most similar to gold. Gold 2.0 is a frequent term used to describe the Bitcoin system. It's important to remember that Gold 2.0 is only describing one side of the Bitcoin system, the monetary unit. The other component of the economic system is the engine itself. BTC is the fuel, Bitcoin is the engine. The Bitcoin economic system is an attempt to recreate a tried and true economic model for its money, perfect scarcity of the money. While gold is constantly being dug up from the earth and added into the circulating supply of gold, we know from the laws of physics that there is a finite supply of gold found on earth. Because we know this, gold acts as a sound monetary battery because it cannot be freely minted by anyone. There is a fundamental breakdown, however, between this comparison between BTC and gold. Gold achieves its security through a deep connection to physics. Nothing in the universe can create gold other than an exploding star. Gold is secured by the energy of a supernova. After the energy in an exploding star is released, all gold has been minted from this event and no more. All economic cost to maintain the security of gold is paid for at Genesis. There is no ongoing cost to secure the value of gold. It gets its security for free. Bitcoin, unfortunately, does not have this feature. Bitcoin has ongoing costs for maintaining economic security: perpetual energy consumption and perpetual ASIC degradation and turnover. Bitcoin proof of work operates through an endless competition to mine Bitcoin blocks faster than everyone else. Those that produce more hashes mine more blocks and receive more rewards. This proof of work competition perpetually gets more and more fierce as the value of BTC goes up. The incentive to participate in the consensus engine of an economic system is a function of the value of the unit that is being competed for. If there is value being issued to fund security, there will be interested parties willing to compete for that value. If there is more value being issued, then there will be more people in competition. Under proof of work, this endless competition to mine Bitcoin blocks adds security to the Bitcoin system at the cost of expending the energy inside the BTC monetary unit. As the margins for proof of work miners get slimmer and slimmer, more and more BTC must be sold to pay for these operational costs. Selling the unit discharges the energy, and Bitcoin security is fundamentally designed to instigate a race to consume as much energy as possible. Bitcoin is secured by long-term perpetual selling pressure on the economic unit. The GDP of the Bitcoin economy generates these economic fees for making a transaction in the Bitcoin crypto economic system, and these fees are sent to the miners and sold to fund the mining operation. This is a constant drain on the BTC monetary unit. Bitcoin's security is persistently funded by BTC sell pressure from the miners. While the 21 million Bitcoin supply cap makes BTC an attractive place to store one's wealth, it comes with a secret hidden tax of miner sell pressure to fund the security of the system. As described above, monetary units are charged by buying and discharged by selling. The net outcome of this design is that the value of Bitcoin's native economy won't be able to be fully expressed by BTC the asset. BTC the asset leaks its value due to the significant power draw placed on it by the Bitcoin proof of work security engine. Bitcoin's expenditure-based security is persistent, reliable, long-term sell pressure of BTC from proof-of-work miners because Bitcoin does not meter resource consumption by its security providers. Just as economic systems before it, Bitcoin is secured by taxation on GDP produced by its economic engine. Bitcoin's military, its proof-of-work force shield, is running at an extremely high burn rate. A second inefficiency in the Bitcoin economic engine is its inability to control for its security budget. Bitcoin's long-term security comes from the transaction fees paid to the network. Those transaction fees are paid by those who want to make a transaction on Bitcoin, and the fee for including your transaction in the ledger is paid to Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin does not know how much fees it will receive at any given moment. It just collects the revenue it receives and sends it all to the miners. Bitcoin has no capacity to give long-term assurances to the security providers about the future size of the security budget. As stated above, the GDP of economies fluctuate and spike, and Bitcoin's security budget is a function of the economic exchange on top of Bitcoin. BTC fees paid to miners are volatile. Sometimes they are low, sometimes they are high. This is like injecting fuel into an engine by stomping on the gas and then immediately releasing it. Rather than finding the exact right spot to go the desired speed, Bitcoin just throws all of its received transactional revenue into the engine as soon as it receives it. Not being able to meter the economic resources inputted into the Bitcoin security engine means two things. Bitcoin miners have unpredictable security budgets to work with, and Bitcoin is overpaying for security. Giving up the power of issuance at the protocol level means that Bitcoin security acts as a sail, powered by the winds of its economic engine. It is not actually capable of generating its own power. Its security is a function of its own economy. Bitcoin's native economy may be able to keep the sail filled with air, but long-term security assurances are absent. Additionally, because Bitcoin directs 100% of all received transaction fee revenue towards miners, it never gives itself the opportunity to pocket excess fee revenue to save for a rainy day. If the Bitcoin economy is running hot, Bitcoin forwards all of this revenue directly to miners instead of taking those economic excesses and saving them for later. Bitcoin doesn't manage a balance sheet. All economic excesses end up getting paid to the Bitcoin miners, who are perpetually in a race to increase their energy consumption. In nation-state economics, central banks raise and lower interest rates as economies heat up or cool down. Lowering interest rates means that the central banks is capturing less economic fees and promoting economic activity. Increasing interest rates means that the economy is heating up, and it's safe to charge more in transaction fees to pocket this revenue, in case the reserve is needed in the future. Bitcoin sheds this entire notion and simply lets the free market determine the transaction fees based on the demand to transact in Bitcoin, and then 100% of these fees are paid to the miners. Not having the options to pocket these fees and save them for later is forfeiting an extremely powerful value capture mechanism and leads to less soundness in BTC over time. Ethereum's advances in crypto economics. Bitcoin has been obsessed with optimizing very specific parts of its crypto economic system. BTC, the asset, is prioritized above all other components. Bitcoin is designed to preserve the 21 million hard cap supply of BTC, and everything else is a means to produce this end. From the perspective of a holistic, integrated system of both an economic engine and a monetary fuel, Bitcoin has sacrificed the efficiency of its engine to produce scarcity in the asset. But crypto economic systems are composed systems. The aggregate output of these things are the result of the interaction between the power of the money and the efficiency of the engine. Optimizing for one and not the other leaves you with an inefficient system that is a drag on the economy that it hosts. As with all technological innovations that humans have ever come up with, there have been 12 years of crypto economic research and development to leverage. Leveraging these advances in crypto economics means that we can move away from the Stone Age economics of Gold 2.0 and move into the full expression of sci-fi economics using optimizations in both cryptography and digital economies. Proof of stake is efficient security. Proof of stake is an alternative to proof of work that leverages the value of the native asset of a crypto economic system to provide security to the economy. Bitcoin proof of work secures itself via a competition in resource consumption and forces potential attackers to match and surpass the rate of economic consumption to attack the network. Ethereum's proof of stake secures the system by erecting a wall of value that a potential attacker must overcome in order to attack the system. Currently, there's 3.6 million ETH, which is $6.7 billion at the time of speaking, staked to the Ethereum beacon chain, the early foundation for Ethereum 2.0. An attacker must stake an equivalent amount of value to attack Ethereum, denominated in ETH. If an interested party wants to attack Ethereum, they will need to source an equivalent 3.7 million ETH in order to do so. But $6.7 billion worth of buying pressure on ETH is likely to significantly increase the price of ETH, so the US dollar value of Ethereum security is actually likely much higher. What's more important, however, is that proof of stake systems do not consume economic resources. All that is needed to secure Ethereum under proof of stake is a Raspberry Pi and an internet connection and 32 Ether. Stakers are not required to sell their ETH rewards to pay for the economic cost of providing security. The economic cost of Ethereum are the opportunity cost of holding Ether. Proof of stake operates on the assumption that there is a sufficient supply of interested parties who are willing to hold ETH in order to access ETH-denominated rewards. Naturally, the disposition of people who are particularly suited to this are those who are bullish Ether. People who are bullish Ether always want more and more Ether. These people will purchase Ether off the secondary market and stake it and keep the Ether dividends they receive. The juxtaposition between proof of work and proof of stake couldn't be more clear. Proof of work generates a rat race of economic consumption that leads to long-term persistent selling of the asset by miners. Proof of stake surgically targets the party of people who are most bullish on the asset and provides them with a transaction validation system that allows them to not have to sell any Ether to express their belief in the growth of the Ethereum economy. Proof of work miners fight to more efficiently produce more hashes for Bitcoin in the hopes that their efficiencies will mean that they will have to sell less BTC than their competition. Proof of stake validators compete in their bullishness on Ether by pricing out lesser bulls out of the ETH rewards. Those who are fundamentally the most bullish on Ether are those who are willing to accept the least amount of Ether rewards as compensation for locking up their capital in Ether to stake to Ethereum. Proof of stake rewards increase or decrease as a function of the supply of Ether being staked to Ethereum. If there is less Ether staked, Ether rewards are higher and vice versa. As more and more validators stake ETH to Ethereum, the ETH-denominated rewards are reduced. This process will wash out the lesser ETH bulls who are less interested in reducing rewards, leaving those who are willing to receive the least amount of ETH possible. Through this mechanism, Ethereum organically discovers the optimal balance between Ethereum security and ETH issuance. This mechanism leverages control theory to optimize for Ethereum security while maximally retaining ETH scarcity. Additionally, this mechanism tilts the axis of power towards those who are most bullish on the economic asset that powers the Ethereum economy, Ether. Ether holders are the individuals who are most interested in Ethereum's health and success, and Ethereum perpetually rewards these individuals with the asset they love the most. This is how proof of stake erects the highest walls around its economy, while specifically compensating the party of people that are most inclined to uphold the network for the cheapest cost. As a result of this mechanism, Ethereum needs to issue the least amount of new currency to provide adequate security to Ethereum. Once proof of stake is adopted and the proof of work system is forked away, yearly Ether issuance drops from roughly 4.75 million ETH, which is 4.1 of the outstanding supply per year, down to a projected 0.6 to 1 million ETH, which is roughly half to 1% issuance per year. Capturing economic excesses. EIP 1559 is a mechanism for capturing the economic excesses of the Ethereum economy and funneling those excesses back into the value of ETH. EIP 1559 formally links the economic power behind the Ethereum economy with the value of the ETH currency. Base fee is paid by economic actors on Ethereum to get a transaction included into the Ethereum ledger. The size of base fee is determined by the demand to get a transaction included. If there is significant demand to transact on Ethereum, base fee moves upwards. Base fee operates as a governor over Ethereum's economy. If the economy gets hot, base fee increases. If the economy cools down, base fee decreases. And base fee is burnt. Unlike Bitcoin and other non-EIP 1559 crypto economic systems, Ethereum's transaction fees aren't paid to those who provide security. They are simply removed from supply, effectively returning the value of the burned units back into the remainder of the circulating supply. This is the exact opposite of issuance, where the minting of new coin is borrowing monetary power from the circulating supply. EIP 1559 makes the flow of power go in reverse. Value flows from the economic excesses of the economic engine into the economic unit. All systems generate heat loss, but EIP 1559 is a heat recycling mechanism that recaptures Ethereum's economic excesses. Base fee is the crypto economic analog to central bank interest rates. It goes up when the economy heats up, and it falls when the economy cools down, and it adds value back to the balance sheet of the holistic economic system. This is restoring power back to the economic unit. Base fee is a persistent buyer of ETH. It is a stock buyback of company equity. It is the central bank charging interest rates to add strength to the currency. Every single transaction on the Ethereum economy is adding power to its monetary asset, ETH. This mechanism benefits all ETH holders equally, as all ETH holders have a higher percentage of the remaining ETH supply. As a monetary unit, EIP 1559 makes ETH a more compelling money to hold. EIP 1559 is a mechanism that associates economic output to economic unit scarcity. ETH gets more scarce as Ethereum's economy produces more economic output. As we discussed above, sound money is money that tracks the economic output of an economy. Growth in the economic output of an economy charges the monetary unit with economic power. If the GDP of an economy doubles and the supply of the money stays the same, the power output of money should have also doubled. With EIP 1559, the burning of base fee, the supply of ETH reduces as a function of the growth of the Ethereum economy. This is a new paradigm specifically enabled by crypto economics. This is the difference between trying to recreate Stone Age economics with Gold 2.0 and the creation of something brand new using new crypto economic tools. Sound money is money that grows in scarcity as a function of the growth in the size of the economy that uses it. But what is a money that receives outsized tailwinds from economic growth? Importantly, the more power lying behind Ether, the asset, the less Ether actually needs to be issued to fund economic security, as one economic unit of Ether goes further as a reward for providing security. The rate at which base fee will burn ETH won't truly be known until it's implemented. Testnets and economic models can only go so far, but the Ethereum researchers estimate that base fee will burn roughly between 50 to 70% of Ethereum's current fees. This is an estimation out of Ethereum core devs, and it doesn't burn 100% of transaction fees because of reasons. You can go check out the article I have linked in my article to understand why. According to Coinmetrics, the 200-day moving average for ETH fees paid to Ethereum is roughly 10,000 Ether per day, according in March 2021. If EIP 1559 were implemented right now, the yearly ETH burn rate would be projected to be about 2.2 million ETH. The ETH burn rate is strongly correlated to the total economic activity that is hosted on Ethereum. Ethereum fees have never found any sort of equilibrium, so there is no normal fee level. Future fee magnitude is highly unpredictable. Critics of Ethereum will point towards Ethereum's current state of highly speculative, yield-chasing, gambling-esque behavior, and claim that Ethereum fees are only sustained by greater fool's games. Those bullish on Ethereum will rattle off a seemingly endless list of possible economic activities that Ethereum is uniquely suited for as mechanisms for long-term sustainable fee demand. To discern between these two ends of the spectrum, I'll ask the reader to review the above sections discussing the power that efficient crypto-economic engines provide to the economic transactors that leverage these platforms. A quote from myself earlier in this article. The economic activity hosted on Ethereum's native DeFi ecosystem is better equipped to retain the full value of the labor put behind it. Ultrasound money. Ultrasound money refers to the compounding synergies between EIP 1559 and proof of stake. EIP 1559 puts perpetual buy pressure on Ether from fee revenue it generates from its native economy. In contrast to the Federal Reserve being the lender of last resort for the US dollar, Ethereum is the primary buyer of its own native currency, and it uses all of its excessive revenues to buy and burn ETH from the circulating supply. Simultaneously, proof of stake inherently rewards the smallest viable cohort of ETH bulls who are willing to accept the least amount of ETH rewards possible while providing adequate security to Ethereum. The power of these components are multiplicative. They are a function of each other. A recursive relationship between the power of one feeds into the other. With proof of stake, yearly ETH issuance is under 1%. ETH issuance drops from 4.75 billion Ether per year down to 1/2 to 1.2 million Ether per year. With EIP 1559, yearly ETH burn is estimated at 1.5 or 1.9%. An estimated 1 million ETH will be burnt in fees. All these factors feed into each other and make each other more strong, creating a positive feedback loop in the value of ETH. This positive feedback loop is furthered by the fact that Ether is the most trustless asset on Ethereum. As the native asset on Ethereum, ETH has favorable risk parameters as collateral on DeFi. There is no matching ETH's level of trustlessness, as all other assets on Ethereum were issued by humans who are folly, or code, which is buggy. We can see this in applications like MakerDAO, AAVE, or Compound, who give favorable interest rates and collateralization ratios to ETH collateral, enabling ETH capital to be more efficient than alternative assets. We also see this in applications like Uniswap or SushiSwap, where ETH is the dominant trading asset. Total Uniswap liquidity is $5 billion, and ETH represents $2.1 billion of supply of this liquidity. The number 2 liquid asset in Uniswap is USDC at $350 million. We also see this in applications like RAI, which attempts to make a self-referential governance-eliminated non-USD stablecoin, which logically can only use Ether as collateral due to the design goal of eliminating human governance. ETH's privileged position as pristine collateral in DeFi will add to the scarcity tailwinds to the supply of ETH as an additional source of power that feeds into the monetary energy behind ETH. The 12 years of crypto economic advances made since the introduction of Bitcoin in 2009 are coming to a head with Ethereum and Ether. With the integration of EIP 1559 and proof of stake, along with the native economic layer on the internet, Ether will be the most economically optimized asset that humanity has ever come up with. A new era of economic efficiency and monetary soundness will be unlocked and will assist humans everywhere to more effectively achieve their economic goals and aspirations. With ultrasound money putting power into our engine, a new age of human coordination and flourishing is upon us. Thanks everyone for bearing with me. I know that was a long one, but I think it did a good job of kind of explaining how systems are architected and how crypto economics are new architectures and what we can do when we really optimize these things. I'm looking forward for the ultrasound money meme to really grow, because this is just the beginning, and memes are really the way that we communicate what is this like 6,000 word essay into smaller and smaller bite-sized packages. So this is just the start. Things are going to get more efficient. Things are going to get shorter. I know it's long, and I appreciate you bearing with me to the very end. So cheers. Thanks for reading.